Hiya, this is Chris Nixon in Leeds, England. I'm the author of the Simon Westow, Tom Harper and Richard Nottingham series, all set in Leeds, England. Where else? I'm listening to the Dark and Stormy Book Club podcast, and so are you. So sit back, have fun, and enjoy.
Hello, and welcome to episode 212 of Dark and Stormy Book Club. Today we talk with our good friend, Edwin Hill. Enjoy.
I'm Ann Dart.
I'm Tracy Stormy.
And I'm Kathy Knight.
And together we are
It Was a Dark and Stormy Book Club,
a podcast for mystery lovers.
Welcome. If you enjoy our show, please consider contributing to the Dark and Stormy Patreon. By becoming a patron, you will help us create better and quality content. There are also benefits to becoming a patron, such as exclusive content and Dark and Stormy merchandise. Become a supporter at patreon.com/darkandstormybc. Check our website for the link. We appreciate any and all contributions. Thank you.
We would like to welcome to the program Edwin Hill, a great friend of the show, and we're going to be talking about his new book, The Secrets We Share. Welcome, Edwin.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so great to be back.
All I can say about this book is you got a dark side.
I do have a dark side. I thought my other books were pretty dark too.
Not as dark as this one. This one covered a whole bunch of things. What gave you the idea for this book?
This book was so strange to write because I was writing it during the pandemic, of course, and it was so hard to concentrate on anything, let alone writing an entire manuscript. So I would say I had a lot of false starts on this book. That's my long way of saying that. But I would say the ultimate impetus for the book, thank goodness I found it, was I live in Boston, and there was an abandoned factory about maybe a mile from my house, just kind of like sitting in the middle of the city. And I would drive past it periodically, and I always wondered what was inside of it. And so I saw that factory. It's right near a private school, and I imagined one of the kids from the private school sneaking into it. That's sort of what got me going on the novel. Thankfully, that happened about 3 months before the manuscript was due to my editor. Up until that point, I had really struggled with it. But as soon as I had that image in my head, the rest of the story sort of fell into place.
There were quite a few characters in this book, and I have to say very different from the Hester series, but it was so nice getting a visit from Angela. Is this going to be a series as well?
Not right now. I wrote it to be a standalone, but I could actually see it turning into a series. People always have liked Angela. Angela White is a recurring character who's been in all of my novels, but she sort of did a crossover into this novel from my series. People have always really liked her, and a lot of people have been responding very positively to Natalie. Natalie Cavanaugh is the main protagonist in this story, and people have liked her as well. I could see it spinning off into a series about those two characters. I'm working on another standalone. Tana French does this a lot. A lot of authors do this. Charlie Donnelly does it. I like it when authors sort of create a universe and they'll use supporting characters from different books who become larger characters in the next book. In the novel I'm working right now, there's a minor character in this novel, The Secrets We Share, called Brock London. He's a state detective, and one of the challenges of doing a series with homicide is Massachusetts, the towns are all very small. Even Boston is relatively small, but most towns don't have a homicide unit. Most towns, if there's a homicide, they bring in the state cops. So one of the nice things about a state cop is they can travel more so than an urban cop would be able to do.
Are you sure that's his real name?
Because Brock London is such a ridiculous name. There's a recurring joke in this book where one character keeps asking him if that's his real name.
Is that your real name? I was tickled to see Hester stick her little head in there.
So Hester is the main character in this series. She's a research librarian, and one of the things she does is she finds people on the side. In this novel, there are dueling investigations going on. There's an investigation going on in the present storyline, And then there's something that happened in the past that may or may not be related to what's going on in the present. And so Angela, who's one of our detectives, she decides to look into the story in the past on the sly, and she uses Hester to do that. And Hester winds up doing a lot of the investigation off the page, and it's actually such a useful tool as a writer. You can move the story ahead really quickly when someone just pops in periodically and gives you the information that you need.
I never really thought about it that way because sometimes a book can get bogged down in the research, and you took care of that problem.
Oh, yeah, it was great. It really helped move the story. You could have the story move 10 paces forward in like half of a page by doing that.
Pretty cool. Now, is this the first time you've written a book with time frame changes?
I've definitely used flashback before. This has 2 time periods, but the one in the past, I learned this technique from this terrific author named Paula Muniz. She writes a series called the Mercy Carr mystery series. The first one's called A Borrowing of Bones. It's really good. They're set in Vermont. And well, she had written a book. The third book in that series is called The Hiding Place. And so she was talking about how she balanced past and present with that. And she used the past scenes sort of as the openers to each act of the story. And so I really liked that idea. Sometimes readers don't like to get bogged down in too much backstory. And so basically the novel's told in 3 acts. And so I introduce each of the acts with a flashback scene. And each one is told from one of 3 different point of view characters. I thought that rounded out the story, but it didn't get bogged down.
I agree. What I was going to say is very few of the characters in this book are who they say they are.
Yes.
Usually there may be one, but this has a whole roster of people who aren't who they started out to be.
Yep, there is a bit of that going on. I don't want to talk too much about it because it's essential to the plot. One of the themes of this novel is really this idea of not really being able to run away from your past. No matter how much you want to leave a part of yourself behind, it usually winds up catching up with you. We all have secrets. They're usually not that big, even if we sort of think that they're big. But when you're writing a novel, you want to elevate everything and make those secrets large and grand and important. So that's what I was trying to do here.
Well, you did a fantastic job. I just loved this book.
Oh, thank you.
It was very good. We like Edwin's dark side.
Well, you're going to like the book I'm working on now, which is super dark.
Oh, really? Oh, good.
Oh, do tell, do tell.
The one I'm working on now takes place on the south coast of Massachusetts, which is an area a lot of people don't know about. The most famous town there is called New Bedford, but it's a beautiful, bucolic part of Massachusetts. I'm setting it in a fictional town, but it's basically based on a town called Westport. And it's about a psychiatrist who spends more time spying on his clients than he does treating them.
Ooh.
Oh,
That sounds like a good one.
now where'd you get your inspiration for that story?
Oh my goodness. You know, the interesting thing is I took it, because I went through so many iterations on this book that we're talking about, The Secrets We Share. It's actually a plot line that I threw out. And this happens to me a lot. I usually start with a pretty complicated storyline, and I try to whittle it down and kind of get rid of some of the extra things that I don't need. When I first started this novel, it was about a prep school in New Hampshire, about the couple that ran that prep school. That was the proposal that I sent into my editor. And then as I was working on it, the story just wasn't coming together. And so then I moved it to Boston. I wanted to reduce the amount of research I had to do on this novel. It was the pandemic. It was hard to go place. So I set it in the neighborhood that I live in. I changed the story, and it was originally 4 siblings, 2 brothers and 2 sisters. And one of those siblings was a psychiatrist. He was the one who spies on his client. And then he had 2 sisters, Glenn and Natalie, and then they had a brother too, who also got the heave-ho. As I was drafting, I gave the 2 brothers the heave-ho. And
Well, I like that idea much better because that sounds creepy.
it is a little creepy, and I'm hoping to really up the creep factor in it.
Well, one thing in this story is your twists. You got some real good ones in there.
Something else we really can't discuss, but
But it's in there, and boy, that went, what?
When I was writing this, I wanted this to be a roller coaster ride where the reader was constantly guessing. and I wanted it to be a page turner. I did do a lot of mapping out of plot points as I was writing it to make sure that the story was turning on itself on a regular basis, to make sure that the reader just kept guessing. That's the kind of story that I like. And it was the kind of story I needed to write during the pandemic when everything was just such a bummer. I needed to really be engaged and be having a lot of fun with this novel.
You did a great job.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a Edwin fan anyway, but boy, there was no way I was putting that book down. It was, whoa.
Now that you've written a series and some standalones, which do you prefer?
Oh, gosh, I like both. I wrote 3 books in a series, and I love the series, and I love all the characters, and I still love all of the characters. You have to always come up with something new for those characters to do. And they have to grow as characters, or else, nobody's going to come back to the series. And so there's something really freeing about being able to start fresh with a whole set of new characters where they can do whatever you need them to do for that story. When you write a standalone, anyone can be bad, anyone can be good, anyone can get killed off, anyone can be the killer. When you write a series, of course, you have to protect your core. But I could never kill off Hester Thursby. I mean, I could, but it would be a big, bold move to kill off Hester Thursby.
We will come for you, Edwin.
Yeah, and I think readers would be pretty pissed off. If I did anything to Morgan or did anything to Angela in that series, I think readers would be too thrilled. But with this book, I could do whatever I wanted, and that was really freeing. It was nice to just not be hemmed in by any of the decisions I've made. When you write a series, you make decisions in the first book that stay with, like Hester and Morgan live in Somerville, Massachusetts. Unless I want them to move for some reason, that's where they live. And there are a whole bunch of decisions that you make in a series that stay with you through the whole thing. But that said, I do have a 4th book planned for the Hester Thursby series. I'm not working on it right now, but I do have it outlined. The 3rd book in that series is called Watch Her. It just came out in paperback.
Excellent.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It has a little tiny, not annoying cliffhanger at the end, which doesn't impact the main story at all. It's just about Hester's personal development. I want to explore that tiny little cliffhanger in the next book.
When we interviewed Hank Philippi Ryan, she said what you just said. She had written so many series that she said it was almost liberating to be able to write, and you could kill anybody you wanted to kill because you feel so tethered to the characters.
That's totally true. You can really play with the plot in a way that you can't as much with your characters. There are a ton of benefits to series as well.
And in this book, you tried them all out.
Thank you. I gave it the old college try.
You certainly did. Let's see, how can I do something a little bit different? How can I kill this person? We would be amiss if we didn't mention that Edwin has been nominated for an Agatha.
Thank you. My 3rd book, Watch Her, was nominated for Best Contemporary Novel.
Well, Edwin, we thank you very much for joining us again. Like we said, we really like this book a lot.
Keep it up.
Yes,
Thank
definitely.
You are so generous. I really appreciate everything you do, and I really look forward to seeing you.
Give Michael and Edith Ann our best.
I will.
Is Edith Ann feeling better?
She is. She has a 10-week recovery, and she's 6 weeks into it. If you ask her, she says she's done with it.
She's ready.
Yeah.
Edwin, you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Okay, see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Trivia. Last week's question was, which mystery author used the pen name Richard Stark, John Dexter, Barbara Wilson, and Alan Marshall? A. Donald Westlake, B. Carl Hyacin, C. Colin Dexter, or D. Greg Iles? The answer is A. Donald Westlake. He has actually used over 19 pseudonyms, as well as writing under his own name. This week's question. Ian Fleming based James Bond's looks on which singer? A. Frank Sinatra, B. Hoagy Carmichael, C. Dean Martin, or D. Vaughn Monroe? Good luck. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you join us next week. And remember,
Life would be boring without a little mystery. Bye.
Kings River Life magazine now has a mystery podcast called Mystery Rat's Maze.
Episodes consist of mystery short stories and first chapters of mystery novels.